Hey again, everybody, this is Ashley. Welcome back to the Pinkfresh Studio YouTube channel. I'm going to be taking it back today to what started most of our love for card making in the first place, and that is stamping and die cutting. Just some super simple techniques to make some really beautiful cards. It's fun to do, you don't have to think too much about it, and you don't have to have a ton of material to do it. So the first card that I'm going to start today is going to involve the Adore Alpha stamp set. Now I do end up bringing in the Adore Alpha dies in a little bit, but I'll let you know when I do that. So I'm going to be using the new Pinkfresh Studio line of inks. So I'll be using Regal Bliss, Lavender, Candy Violet, and finally Soft Lilac. And these ink pads and the colors were formulated just so perfectly to work with one another, and they just look really beautiful when they're stamped next to each other as well as on their own. And I'm really, really loving, the more and more I dive into them, the more I'm finding that I love them. So I'm going to keep it really simple today, like I said, and I'm going to be using these acrylic blocks. Now I could use my MISTI and set up all of my stamps. I'm doing sort of like an alphabet type card, and you'll see the idea come to fruition as you're watching. But obviously I'm doing some repetitive stamping, and I could use my MISTI to do this, but I really wanted to show that a card like this with a nice bold image and a fun sentiment can really be done with the most limited of supplies. Sometimes you got to take it back, like I said, and just do what you love and not think too much about all of the supplies you need. Or if you're traveling and you don't want to carry or pack all of these supplies, this is really great to be able to do this. So as I said before, I'm using the Adore Alpha set, and I love how large these letters are and how great they look when they're all stamped out in this color scheme. Again, the Pinkfresh colors come in, they come in, the mini ink cubes come in packs of 4, but you could also, of course, buy the full sizes as well together, and just those color schemes work so well together. So now that I've gotten to the H, I'm going to stamp the H and the I in Versamark ink. Now for those of you who aren't familiar, Versamark is a clear ink. It's very sticky and works really well with heat embossing. So I start out by stamping it with my Versamark ink, and now I'm going to bring in a piece of just printer paper and pour on some really sparkly gold embossing powder. Now I'm going to tap off the excess, which is why I have that sheet of paper underneath, and I see some spots in there that I haven't quite covered in embossing powder, so I pour some over the top again. I go ahead and put that back into the same pot of embossing powder, and then I heat set it with my heat gun until all of the embossing powder has melted. So now obviously we've got the word high highlighted in my card. Now you may notice that I skipped L. I went right from K to M, and I would love to say that I had a reason for this, but I think I just forgot the L. I don't have much of an excuse for that, so I do apologize. Feel free to skip the L or put it in there if you want to. But as you can see, I just keep the same flow going. I'm using my colors from darkest to lightest, and they will stagger on their own sort of in your stamping. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can see that, especially that N that I'm staring at right now looks a little bit crooked, but the end result is the end result is going to look beautiful. To bring a bit more detail into the card, since I'm going to leave it pretty simple like it is, I'm going to use the diagonal stitched rectangles die, and this is the largest one. It will cut to 4 by 5 1/4, which is a 1/4 inch around smaller than an A2 size card, which is normally how I like to create my card fronts anyway. This way you have a bit of a border on your card base. So I've decided that high is just not sparkly enough for me. So I'm going to bring in some gold glitter paper and use the Adore Alpha die set to cut out those 2 letters. Now I'm going to use some foam tape, and this is also an opportunity for me to bring in some dimension. So the foam tape will help that. It will pop it up a little bit more. And as you can see, the same basic design of the card stays intact, but we have that that really great sparkle and a little bit of dimension there. So as you can see, I went ahead and added a little bit of a sentiment or a sub-sentiment there that says, "Look how far you've come." I also added it to the card base on foam tape, which gives it a little bit more dimension, and then some enamel dots as well from Pinkfresh in some coordinating colors. I really love the way this one turned out. It was really simple and fun to make, and you can do it in any color scheme. So it's easy to make this for an adult, for a child, for like a masculine style card, and you can obviously put any sentiment that you like on there. So I really love the way that this one came together. My next card is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do mainly die cutting, and I've taken it upon myself to create my own pun. And some of you may love this and some of you may not, but how I started out was I took sweet mustard, which is this really beautiful yellow-orange color from Pinkfresh, and cut out some of these hexagons from the basic label frames die set. Now you can choose any size you want. I chose this size because I thought that it just looked really cool together when I put it together like a puzzle. So you can see me sort of moving them around and finding how they fit well together. I will say that this was the hardest part of this card for me, was getting all of these pieces to a point where they fit to create this sort of fluid honeycomb pattern that I'm creating here, and that will become very important later. So I then was sort of stuck with the task of, how do I make sure that all of these pieces stay in that exact spot that I've put them in? And I went back to a very tried and true Jennifer McGuire tip of using press and seal. So you put the sticky part right down on the die cuts, and you're able to lift the press and seal, and it will hold on to those die cuts and keep them in the exact place that you wanted them. You're able to kind of move it around, and it doesn't tear anything off of that paper or the cardstock, which is great. So I was able to put some foam tape on the back of these and not worry about the pieces moving around, which is really important, like I said, because I spent all of that time making sure that it was perfect. So I go ahead, put the foam tape on the back, and then I will lay it back down on my card front, and I'm able to very easily pull the press and seal back off of those pieces of cardstock. You can see that using the Kelly Alpha lowercase dies, I created my own pun. Some of you will think that this is really funny again, and some of you it won't be your style, but I obviously went along the lines of the honeycomb and used hun as my own sort of personalized pun, and I love that kind of stuff, so I thought that was really fun. But I wanted to bring some just easy fun back into card making to show you that you can do whatever you want. It doesn't always have to be technique driven and based. I hope that you've enjoyed the video and gotten some ideas on how you can create simple and fun cards. I will see you again very soon. Be sure to subscribe to see more from the Pinkfresh team.